I don't get the Bible. I am Shawn McCraney, and this is my daughter, Delaney McCraney, and she went through many years of religious instruction from a young child all the way up through her undergraduate degree at a Nazarene university, and yet she doesn't really understand the Bible, even though she's heard a lot of it over the years, and she's not alone. This is most of the world, so I'm really grateful to be here.
Thanks.
And we're in Acts chapter 12.
We're in Acts chapter 12. Okay, might be kind of a short one as well. So Herod this starts with Herod going off on Christians. He made cruel attacks on them. He put James, the brother of John, to death with the sword.
First apostle to die.
Oh.
First apostle.
James.
Stephen died before him, but James was there's two Jameses in the apostles. He was the first.
Okay. And the Jews apparently loved that he was doing this, and so he continued on to do this, and he went on to take Peter in addition. And this was at the time of the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. Is that Passover?
It's no, it's not Passover. It's a different celebration. So the Jews were going to be there to celebrate it.
Okay, because at some point it goes on to say Herod goes to take him out. Herod imprisons Peter then, and the church starts praying for him, and Herod goes to take him out after Passover, it says.
So he was in there. He started at the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, and he was in there until after Passover.
Oh, okay.
Probably to appease the Jews who were gathering in Passover to hear that the senior apostle of Jesus is in prison. Probably pleased them very much.
I see.
Herod's job was to make all of Israel happy so that they didn't rise up. So I think that was an act to do it.
And we've talked about this, but Herod, why is that his job? He's a Roman.
He's assigned by the Roman Empire to oversee that area of the empire. To make it very simple. And just to let you know, there was a Herod the Great, okay, and he built Herod's temple, which was the seventh wonder of the world before it came down.
Wow.
And then he gave his area to four of his sons, and they're also all called Herods. So it becomes very difficult to know which Herod is which.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the title is not king. He's not a king, is he?
No.
Okay. Are there kings?
He's a tetrarch, I think it's called.
Okay.
And there aren't kings. There's only an emperor who was known as being God himself on earth. No different than imperialistic Shinto Japanese. They have their emperor as God.
Yeah.
And it's like in The Crown. We've been watching The Crown. The Queen is the Anglican Church's connection to God himself.
Yeah.
So it's not new. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that makes more sense. He kills James. The Jews are stoked. And when he saw that, he wanted to keep doing it for PR. And he imprisons Peter. Peter's in prison while the Jews are in town. Sorry to repeat this, but just to be clear. So from the Feast of the Unleavened Bread to Passover. So he goes, and his plan... Did you see that? My computer died. But I just plugged it in.
It's the devil.
I'm having serious computer problems.
But it's okay, because problems with technology come with ministry. They're endless, especially in this age of internet and everything. It's just endless, but we'll be all right. We're loading the Lenovo back up.
We're going to edit this because it's going to have everything exited out.
Should we not do it?
Is this not...
Do we have enough?
I can edit this. I just want to make sure it's still going on the computer over here.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem.
Is this not, no, it says my computer's plugged in. Okay.
Okay.
I just don't even know why it did that. Okay. So Herod's plan was to release Peter after Passover. I don't really know why to release him. I don't really know why that was part of his plan.
I don't know if it was part of his. Well, it sounds like he's saying it's part of the plan. So it was a strategy to temporarily appease. But Herod, I don't think Herod could just do what he wanted. I'm sure the Spirit was governing what was happening there very strongly on behalf of Peter. So he could have tried to strategize to please the Jews with his imprisonment, but no.
Okay. It's unclear because it just says, and when Herod was about to take him out.
Yeah.
The same night, Peter was sleeping in chains between two armed men. The watchmen were keeping watch over the door of the prison. And an angel comes to Peter, says, "Get up quickly." Chains fall off. He leaves with the angel. And Peter's questioning, is this a vision? And he realizes it's not, because the angel escorts him out of past the watchmen and everything. Is there anything?
Yeah, there's an idea from that when God is really directly involved with your life in times of real trouble, there's an idea that you escape from the physical torture of what you're going through, and you enter into kind of a dreamlike state, and it's based off things like Peter being let out of the prison, but he doesn't know if this is a dream. He doesn't really realize if that angel was real or not until he gets out and he finds himself outside the prison gates.
Yeah.
So there is that idea that when people who are put to death by martyrdom, we learn later in the John Calvin had people burned at the stake for not believing rightly, that they are in the midst of all that taken into a state that that God is merciful to his children, and he protects them when the torture is going on. And it's based off that kind of experience that Peter had. Now I don't know if it still happens, but I would hope that if you follow him in faith, that if something came so horrible as that you would escape in the physical suffering of it. Because, I don't know. It just doesn't, maybe that's just a stupid thought, but that's where it comes from.
No, and Peter, is there a part of that is there a part of that analogy for you that has to do with Peter questioning if it was God? He almost didn't even know it was a vision.
Yeah, he was just, and that's what I love about Peter. He's just what is this? Is this real?
Yeah.
So.
And that's part of the protection, is just not know. You're getting out of it, but you don't really know what's going on. I see. So, that was, I mentioned this in a past episode, but that's kind of the part where I realized it's so apparent that the apostles are literally just
seat of their pants.
Yeah. Yes. There's no agenda at all. They don't know what is going on. No. They don't know what's God going with them. So, so afterward, he goes to the house of Mary. Where people are gathered. Is this Cassidy's favorite story? My sister.
Yeah.
He knocks on the door.
They've been praying for Peter to be released.
For Peter, he goes to their house. He knocks on the door. A little girl, Rhoda, comes to the door, sees Peter, and just runs away.
Shuts the door on him.
Oh, it doesn't. It says she doesn't open the door.
Oh, it doesn't even open. She
doesn't even open the door and turns back.
I gotta say this. Listen, I know girls, and I've had 3. This attests to me. It's way up there. on how this was literal. Because that is exactly what an excitable girl who doesn't really know what the heck's going on would do. Because all the Christian people, all the religious people are in there praying and praying and praying. She goes to the door, she hears it's him, and it's exactly what a teenage girl would do. She doesn't even pay attention. She runs back in to tell everybody, and they're like, let him in, right? I love that insight, that little insight, because girls, before they hit puberty and wanting to be beautiful and everything, they are the funniest little creatures, and that is what Rhoda is. She is my middle daughter's favorite biblical character because that's exactly how she behaved. Yeah.
That makes sense. They call her that. I'm trying to find it. She joyfully ran away. And...
She's like Ferris Bueller's sister, you know?
Yeah.
She just like...
Ferris Bueller's sister.
Yeah. When she meets the bad boy in the jail and it's Charlie Sheen and her mom says, come on, we're going. She's like, okay. She's just like so goofy.
So true.
Yeah. Girls are goofy. I'm sorry. Can't contain the excitement.
Especially when they're together.
Oh my gosh. It's a chicken screech giggle fest. You gotta love their innocence and their beauty. God made these girls so beautiful. All girls are beautiful creatures, and they've been abused by this world. So go ahead, Rhoda. She runs back in.
She says, it's Peter.
It's Peter. And they're like, it is not.
They don't believe her. Yeah. They follow her back to the door. She's like, it really is. And they open it and they find it's him. And he tells them to be quiet, that the Lord did this stuff and that they need to give that news to James. And they left.
And James is the brother of Jesus.
Jesus?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, he's the brother of the Lord.
Wait, why am I not finding that?
I don't think it says it there.
Really?
It says it in other places.
So, different James than the James that was killed.
He's obviously James the Little. They call him James the Little. They don't know if it's because he's younger or little.
That's Jesus' brother.
They say it's his brother. There's debate. Was he, he obviously was, if he was his brother, he would be a stepbrother because his dad would have been Joseph. James's dad would have been Joseph. Jesus' dad was God. But they were from the same mother. Yeah. And some say it was his cousin.
Weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my place here. I didn't even know Jesus had brothers. How stupid is that?
Yeah, there's a time when his brothers and sisters and mother came to him, and the disciples came and say, your mom and brothers are here. And Jesus says, those who are my brothers or sisters, mothers, are those who believe in me. So I'm burping. The Catholics, now they say no way. And so this takes us just on a little short thing. Catholics say that Mary remained a virgin for the rest of her life after she bore the Christ, and that she never had relations with a man. They hold her up as this vestige of holy femininity, and that's why they pray to her, because she is high up in the equalness of holiness, right? She never laid with a man. Well, the scripture kind of shows she had other children, but they messed that around a little bit. So that's one view of the Virgin Mary, okay? The LDS view is God the Father, who has a body of flesh and bone because he was once a man on an earlier world, came down and had relations with Mary, literal sexual relations with Mary, and she conceived. Yeah, that's the LDS view.
That's the most Mormon thing I've ever heard.
Of course. They're the most materialistic religion on earth.
And it has to be that they become gods that can still have
sex with women. You get it? You see how they put it? The Protestant view is that the Holy Spirit overshadowed Mary. she conceived Jesus, and then later she and Joseph went on and had more children.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the differences of the Marys.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm so curious how the Catholics defend their view.
They have a whole volumes of books to show how James wasn't James and this wasn't this. And when it says his brothers and sisters, it meant Joseph's children that Mary was stepmother to from an earlier marriage. It's endless. Yeah.
The language, at least in this version, is give the news to James and the brothers.
Yeah, talking about the apostles.
Okay.
Yeah.
So James, Jesus' brother, isn't an apostle.
He is. Yeah, there's two James.
And
James the
one that
Greater
was
is
killed-
dead.
Okay.
James the Little is left. And then James the Little is the one who wrote the epistle of James. That's at the end of the apostolic record.
Okay. Awesome. The next morning, Peter left. It doesn't say where he went. The next morning, Herod went to send for Peter in the prison cell, and he wasn't there, of course. He questioned the watchmen, gave orders for them to be put to death because they didn't do their job. And I realized here that, like, I would think that that is not something of God for someone else to be put to death being a consequence of something he did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that he would be merciful and protect them.
Sort of, or like, yeah, I don't know. It revealed something about the way God works to me, that like that isn't a care that people were put to death because of stuff that he did.
No, and you come to a really good point. I mean, when we try to take our human hearts for family, friends, and we try to assign it to God, and that he has a duty to protect those, and you can't do it. He does what he does to make things happen.
Yeah.
And it's on an eternal perspective to try to understand it. And human life of his creations is a blip on the eternal spectrum. So I just don't go down those roads. You know, I can't say he should have protected. You know, even if, God forbid, you know, one of our family members were to be taken miserably, I have made up my mind. I can't assign that to him. He has free will. He has goodness. He has all this stuff. And it really is, will you believe he does? Or will you get bitter and angry and say he could have protected them? They got killed because they were helping him. You know, I don't do it, but a lot of people do. And they become bitter. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because, like, the objective of a Christian right now, maybe this is the difference, is that we're in the time after Jesus returned, so it's different. But the objective is to love people, and love is measured by, you know, the life you give to someone else versus the life you take away. So if something you do in the name of God leads to someone else being killed for it, that does not seem like it's loving. And but it just must be that Peter in that time just worked differently, and God works differently. And
okay, I get the humanist atheist view. I would be an atheist if I didn't have the things in my life that have caused me to want to choose faith. But there is just no way on earth you're ever going to hold God's feet to the fire. And they do, because they see it from a humanist perspective. And it's very hard to accept child cancer. It's very, very difficult to understand a God who created all of us and lets little children suffer like that. But we don't know all that's at play. And when we think we do, I've had really religious men say, well, I think God should have. And I'm just like, you're stupid.
It's just, I feel like the wrong response for Christians to say that's planned and orchestrated, because that seems like a terrible God.
Yeah.
But to say it's bigger, like, it's a terrible situation, but it's bigger, there's free will going on.
There's eternal perspectives going on.
And he covers it later, he'll make up for it, that sort of thing.
So
right?
then what is the response we give to a parent who has a child and the child gets cancer and dies when they're 2? This is the response that I think we learn. He's there to comfort, lead, and make it right in the end. And that is what you have faith and trust in. It's not to say he caused it.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that he didn't.
Yeah.
Because when Christians step into that arena, you get into trouble.
Yeah.
And I hate it when we say, oh, give God the glory. I was saved today. And we don't say, give God the glory. He took my 3-year-old today. So you got to be really careful with the stuff you assume. And I just don't, I think that's part of the game of religion. It's really popular, like at Point Loma, you're going to have God getting the praise and honor for all sorts of stuff, but they never see the other side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when, that's why I'm careful to say out loud giving. It's weird because we get to this right here where Herod's, sorry, but the next thing is that Herod puts the watch on his death. He leaves Caesarea. Whatever happens, he needs to stand up in front of people in robes, make a public statement. They say that's the voice of God, and he didn't give glory to God for that, and he's diseased,
eaten by worms and dies.
Yeah.
And that thinking that Christians will extract from the narrative is what is kind of a zealous, crazy thinking. Because it's a different age, it's a different time, and there were different purposes for that. And when you assign it to yourself, it doesn't hold water.
So I feel like, the intention is there with Christians. That it's like, I just need to give God glory for everything. And it's not a bad line of thinking. It's incorrect, but there's reason for it. I get where they're coming from.
There's reason for it. I would suggest not saying I give him glory for everything, although I think that's probably true in the whole spectrum of things. That when we are dead and we're in his presence, we will see how it is glorious what he allowed and did, because he doesn't do bad, right? But I do think we have to be careful when we assign him saving certain people and allowing others to die and then thinking it was him. You go up to somebody whose loved one just died and you say it's God's will. You're just really stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if someone's loved one died, you would tell them he's there, like you just said, in such a way that you go to him with your anger and with your all of that.
Everything.
Yeah.
You can shake a fist at your maker because he knows. And we're just like little children. Just like a little 2-year-old gets mad at their parents. You're the parent. You know what's the problem.
So the fault with someone like Point Loma people is that they feel like they need to be, it's incorrect to go with anger or something. They have to give glory and be happy about all of it. And that's where it's different.
David, a man after God's own heart, argued with God. He got mad at him for killing Uzzah, who studied the ark. There's all kinds of instances. He doesn't care if you're sharing your honest heart. But if you are playing religion, that's where you get in trouble. I just give all glory to God that my 2-year-old died. You can show your emotions.
It's not, it doesn't get at the weight of what he's doing when you just think it's all good. He works with bad stuff.
He works it,
not causes it. But
right.
He's not working if you can't see it as bad. And then him stepping in and fixing it or whatever. If you just see it as good, it's like, okay, what is he even doing?
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a certain problem with this conversation, and that is when a tsunami hits Guam, You know, the evangelicals, God is killing them. You know,
my
he's having,
gosh.
when AIDS came, he's throwing his wrath down on the homosexuals. But bottom line, anything he does is out of love. It's not out of punishment, because the punishment was played out on his son. He's been reconciled. So it's out of love, similar to a coach making you run the bleachers 20 times, and you're like, you're nuts. He knows what he's doing. And that's why the faith is so important. Trusting in his ways, not liking him, but saying, I'll accept this because you've let it happen.
Wait, I don't fully understand. I feel like you're saying what the evangelicals will say.
What do you
by
mean?
Saying he will do things. You're saying God will do things like a coach will make you run the bleachers or whatever, in the same way that Guam gets hit by a tsunami, and that's what evangelicals are saying. God did that.
Yeah,
and
but I'm not saying he does it. I'm saying he allows.
He allows
Yeah,
it.
and that is the bottom line fact. He allows people to die in accidents and of cancer, and you can't get around that. If you say, well, he didn't allow it, then he doesn't. Then he's not in. What is he?
Yeah.
You know, he has to do something if he's a God. Yeah. So I always say he allows it, but he has reasons, and they're always love. You can't say that to a mother who just lost her child.
Yeah.
You can't say it because they don't understand that yet.
And that's loving.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
That's loving.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get how that love is sacrificial, and it's
And it's like really long term. I'm finding that love is. I thought it was the opposite, that like every single act and encounter that you have with people in the world has to be read as loving and with the intention of loving. It's that conversation we had with the girl on the bike in the car.
Oh, yeah.
Where you, like, he was under the impression that you tell someone right there, like, what you think is truth, even if it causes anger in them or something. And I'm like, that is not loving. I didn't understand it that way. I'm understanding it more that love is like not instantaneous. It's like these long, like you don't say things in the moment, or you say it in the moment. But like for a mother who just lost a kid, you don't say it in the moment, and you give them freaking time.
Yeah.
And like
let the Spirit work, and you love them and serve them and bring them food and mourn with them and cry with them over the loss of the child. That's the long-suffering love. In the situation with the girl on the bike, I felt like in that circumstance, the best thing I could do was to call her out. But and I do, and this is why I'm not liked, Delaney. There's a lot of people in this world who don't like me because I don't take. I will call people out, but it's always in love.
Yeah.
I want them to get better. I don't want them to be worse.
Yeah.
But it's always taken as an attack, and I don't mean it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the truth in love is so important. And so we have timing in that too. The truth in love. The love decides when you tell the mother, God's there for you. Your daughter's great. You know, there's a time and place. All of that plays into what love really is.
And like we've been talking about this a lot because we're watching The Crown, and this conversation's come up where like you're saying, you say it and you'll say something to someone like the girl on the bike in the moment out of love, actually because you'll probably not see her again, and you want to like take advantage of the opportunity to say something to her that probably no one else is saying or whatever. But and people think that is attacking.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that if you're if you come to be in a relationship with her somehow and be her friend, in the long run, you would not hold that against her or something. You're just telling her that. And that's the difference. Like, I think I've misread you often too, and like the principle is you keep telling them that right thing, and you aren't like that. You'll say something in the moment and you will totally let it go later.
Yeah.
Like knowing that you just did what you could in that moment or something.
Yeah.
where the principle gets misconstrued, where you keep pushing that principle forever and ever and ever with anger, and you start hating the person. Like,
Right.
that's the opposite.
Yeah.
So,
And like, I just don't see, I don't want to be political here, but I don't see it in the eternal spectrum of biblical truth to tell an 11-year-old who has some question about their sexuality or identity, oh, that's good. That's good. You just follow that. I think it's more loving to give them options and bring them reason, and for it to instill, you should give this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not to say you can't be a woman if you're a male, if you, whatever, you know, or you can't be a homosexual, but it's just, but today you can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they might be gay,
messed
or
up, whatever
a woman
it is.
and not a man. Yeah, but like, there's a reason people aren't figuring that out until they're 40 or something. Like,
Yeah.
time is something that kids need, that adults have perspective on, that they don't.
Yeah.
And it's hard because they, like, you know, as a child, when something was told to you too soon or something, you're like angry about that. So you want to give the kid room, but
time, love,
kids don't get it. They'll probably hold resentment for you if you do what you're saying.
till they wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they wake up, they'll see, oh, you know, now I get it. Now, sometimes I've done things that have been wrong and mean and reactive, and I'm not ever suggesting that. That's my weak flesh.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I'm sorry. But if it is, I'm pretty purposeful in what I say. I listen and see the circumstance and then decide.
Yeah.
And I think the Spirit moves us to do that.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, if when I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
You'll do that, but then there will be times where, like, you find something else out that you didn't know, and then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to rethink. Yeah.
Yeah, but doesn't mean the first thing was bad. Wow, that went longer than I expected.
But a very good convo with my daughter.
We've been thanked for attempting to get closer to 30 minutes, which we are doing unintentionally, but it's just happening. So you're welcome for getting closer to 30.
Hey, check out the Great News Network. Also know that May 7th, 8 p.m., live right here in our HQ, our headquarters, we're going to bring back Heart of the Matter.
Heart of the Matter, May 7th.
And we're going to be defending Mormons.
Full circle.
Full circle, baby.
We will see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.